So a woman recently asked me, how do you deal with an emotionally unavailable man? Now, I think many will respond right away and say, you don't deal with him at all. you just leave that sucker alone. It's not worth it. But let's be real. A lot of women, though they understand that, have found themselves already in that situation. Whether it's dating a guy that you really like, who seems to be very emotionally unavailable, maybe even in a relationship, maybe even in some cases married. It does happen, right? And sometimes this is not the bad, emotionally unavailable guy, like he's so toxic in all these different ways. He may be a good guy, nice guy, and there's things you like about the man, but he can be very detached, very closed off, very unwilling to communicate. And you're hoping that this can be fixed, but you don't know how to navigate the issue, all right? So I want to help you with navigating the issue. And to me, if you do everything that I'm about to mention in this video, and it still cannot be corrected, then that is the clearest sign this is just not going to work, all right? But let's not jump to that conclusion. Let's explore some of the steps that you can take. So, one of the first things to do if you're dealing with an emotionally unavailable man is do not attack him and do not make it all about you. So let's start with the making it all about you, okay? There's a tendency by a lot of women to internalize certain men's dysfunctions or bad behaviors, okay? So it's like, oh, okay, if you don't want to talk to me, what did I do? Why am I not good enough for you to open up to? Or what, like, again, making it about her and then putting that guilt on that man. Now, again, we're working on the premise that this is a good guy. This is a good guy, has a lot of great qualities, but this is an area that is a problem for him. But when you throw all that guilt on him, making it about you, one, you don't allow him to feel comfortable about being able to discuss what the issue actually is. And you add more unnecessary stress when you should not jump to the conclusion it's about you. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to be real. That doesn't mean it's never pertaining to you, or there isn't some things on your end that needs to be looked at. We will get to that. But you don't want to start off by making you the center of the issue. But it's not just making you the center of the issue in regards to what did I do wrong, or why, making him feel bad like you're not worthy or good enough, whatever. It's, again, making this issue all about where you're unhappy and he's not talking to you and you. But you're not placing any focus on maybe there's something going on with him that has nothing to do with you, that he's struggling with. Now, there are many of you who have taken that approach, who have come in and say, what's wrong? What are you struggling with? I'm willing to help you and work with you through this, right? And I applaud you if you have. But if you haven't, you want to make sure that you make it about that. Make it about him in that way, but not in a way that, again, attacks him, all right? We have to learn when in relationships, we have to go into conversations with the mindset of how do we resolve this, okay? We're looking for resolution. And when our mindset is about resolution, then we're more open to healthier approaches to the issue, okay? Because when you attack, you automatically make that man defensive. It is a human nature thing. It happens to you as well. I always say, like, you could literally have done something wrong, legitimately done something wrong to someone. But if they attack you about it, you may still try to defend yourself, even though you knew you were wrong. Because it is just the natural mechanism of the human being to do that, all right? But when instead they come in with a more calm, loving approach, still to address the issue, it is easier for you to then take some accountability. Say, you know what, you're right. I did do that. I was wrong. That was on me. Okay? So you want to disarm people's defensives. And you do that by not attacking, not making it all about you, really coming in with an open mind. That's the other thing you have to do. To not attack and to not make it about you, you have to be open-minded, meaning there's a various amount of possibilities that may be contributing to this man's emotional unavailability. Okay? You don't want to come in with your assumptions of, well, no, it has to be this or it has to be that. No, I'm coming in to understand what it possibly could be, and I accept that it can be anything. Okay? And that open-mindedness will allow you to come in with the energy that will make it easier for him to open up to you in that moment. Now, again, I'm reminding you, does this mean this will 100% guarantee get him to open up? Absolutely not. But will this give you a much greater chance at resolution? Absolutely it will. Okay? So this is your first step. Do not attack. Do not make it all about you. All right. So now the next thing that you should do when you're on how to deal with an emotionally unavailable man is try to get to the root of the issue. All right. So a lot of times in trying to resolve conflict, we address it based off what's going on the surface. Okay. So it's almost like if you come home one day, and let's just flip it for a second. A man comes home one day and the woman starts to go off on him because he didn't take the garbage out, right? And to him is like, oh my gosh, why are you tripping and making a big deal about the garbage, right? It's just some garbage. I'll take it out later. Chill out, right? And that probably infuriates you even more. And one of the reasons why it pisses you off even more is because it's really not just about the garbage in that moment. It may be about the fact that you feel that this man does not help you around the house, or you feel like he already does not help me enough with the kids, and then his lazy behind can't take out the damn garbage when I ask him to. Some of y'all felt that one. I know some of y'all felt that one. And there's a list of other issues, but again, it's typically you getting so worked up is because it's more than what's just happening right now. Okay? So flipping it back, when you're trying to understand this man and address this emotional unavailability, this disconnect he has, you gotta understand it goes deeper than what's happening on the surface. And if you really want to cure this, you've got to be able to figure out what is, or help in trying to understand and figure out what the root issue is. It's like, I'll give another example. I always tell people, like, if they're dealing with a family member who's an alcoholic, and they're like, we're going to tell him to stop, he needs to stop drinking. It's like, listen, that person, that man or that woman has heard you need to stop drinking, drinking is dangerous a million times. You're addressing the surface. They're drinking that much for a reason. We got to discover what is causing them to feel the need to turn to alcohol at that level. All right. So again, I'm just giving another example of how it's always that deeper thing. So in emotional unavailability, and we'll talk more about it later in the video, but typically there might be some unresolved traumas and issues. But once we can figure out what that is, and a good way to figure out what that is asking the question, where do you think this started? Meaning, like, when was the first time you felt like you had to pull away from people or not be as open and expressive with people? Like, do you remember when that first time was? Now, again, will every man, some men are just going to be like, he's already emotionally unavailable. He might just be like, yo, I ain't trying to have this conversation. Boom, boom, boom. But you may be fortunate enough that you caught him at a good time. And he's like, yeah, you know what? It was when in my first relationship and such happened. And since then, I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not opening up anymore. Right? And now we know what the root is. And now we can address the root, and we can figure out, okay, if, for example, and I'm just giving a random example, If the root issue is he opened up to his first love, his first girlfriend, and she went off on him about something and there was a bunch of backlash, and ever since then he shut down. Now the key is, okay, how can we create an environment where you can trust I'm not going to flip on you like that? Where you can trust I'm going to respect your feelings. I'm going to be willing to hear you out. Can we at least practice? You know what I'm saying? I understand you may not be ready to do it all, but but anyways, we'll get more into it. But bottom line is, get to the root of the issue. All right. So now another key on how to deal with an emotionally unavailable man is when you talk to him, listen to understand, not to rebuttal. Okay? So here's another common, I'm not saying all of you do it, but another common tendency of many women is that when having a conversation with a man, you are not listening to his words, but you are trying to interpret them. All right? You are jumping to your own conclusions on what you think this means or what it should mean, or you're allowing your own feelings to overrun you in a way that you are not truly present in taking in what he is expressing to you. So one example, I've used it before, where there was a couple, they went to counseling. They would tell me this story of how they went to the counselor, and the counselor asked the husband, all right, express to your wife what your issues and concerns are. And he spent the next half hour or whatever expressing those things. And the counselor said, okay, wife, repeat to me, maybe it wasn't 30 minutes, but regardless, repeat to me what he just said. And for the next 30 minutes or more, she could not repeat what he just said, because everything was basically, well, what I heard was, or what I feel like he's saying is, and boom, boom, it was interpretation. And then we wonder why there's this constant disconnect. Now understand something. If the man is emotionally unavailable, good guy, but this is a potentially fixable issue, you have to understand this is a fragile man. Okay? Fragile emotionally, meaning, again, he's already been through something more than likely that has caused him to take this approach and be shut down and be very withdrawn. So, if you mishandle the moments of trying to rectify it, you'll only dig a deeper hole. So it's extremely important that you don't make the mistake of, again, rebuttaling or allowing yourself to be triggered by something he says. All right. Now I know that's harder. That's easier said than done. But you really, like, this is one of the reasons why I tell people, like, I say, pray before you react. Pray before you have a conversation. Pray before you attempt any conflict resolution. Like, you need the Spirit in these moments to help you stay calm and poised and not lose sight of what we're trying to accomplish here. Because again, all it takes, because it's kind of hit my spirit, so I want to mention it. Let's just say, for example, you're trying to get him to open up. He's explaining, as I used the previous example of, in his first relationship, when he expressed himself, he got shut down. And to you, you let that trigger you to say, oh, so are you saying I don't listen to you? And it's like, wait a minute, what you're already reacting because you're taking offense as if he's attacking you, when all he's doing is trying to explain to you and answer your question. Okay? And now the minute you do that, you're actually doing exactly what he feared. Backlash, negative reaction, unnecessary drama. And he's like, oh, you know what? Done. And now, because again, he feels like he has to watch every word he says no more words. And he just wants to leave the conversation alone and gives dry answers and dances around it, hoping to move on to the next topic, or not even next topic. He just wants to move on with life and let this whole thing go. So listen to understand, pray so that you're not triggered, okay? And I have to just add, maybe most important, do not take anything that is said in that moment personally, unless it is directly made as a personal thing. Like if he says, well, you did, boom, then that's different, but you still want to make sure you don't react negatively to it and you allow yourself to listen and receive it and properly process it. All right. So now, another important step on how to deal with an emotionally unavailable man is you want to focus on progress and not full completion of the issue. What do I mean by that? Again, there's a very good chance if you're dealing with this good guy who's emotionally unavailable, he's been like this for a decent amount of time. All right. How long? We don't know. Years, several months, I don't know, but it's been like this for a minute for him. Okay. And so, you know how they say Rome was not built overnight. Some of these issues aren't going to be just, okay, completely fixed, it's done, we're good, no problems. And if you have that kind of expectation, you're setting yourself up for more frustration, more failure, and basically a scenario where you'll take 3 steps forward, you'll take 10 steps back. All right. And it'll be this never ending negative cycle. So the goal has to be, if he has joined you in attempting to resolve this, having this conversation, and let me say this, I do think it'd be great to kick this whole conversation off via a letter versus talking. I think that could be much more effective for many people. I always say you got to understand that, one, it can be very difficult for people to have verbal conversations about deep feelings and issues and concerns. But then you have the factors of getting distracted, forgetting what you want, certain things you want to point out, not being mindful of your tone, your energy, your spirit in that moment. There's a lot of different things that can throw it off. And again, them also getting defensive themselves. Versus when you write a letter, it's easier for them to sit, process it, understand where you're coming from. It gives them time to then respond at their pace, but of course at a pace that's reasonable so that you guys can continue to move forward with the conversation. And then we can move into a verbal conversation. But starting with a letter is great, a great thing to try, okay? But getting back to the point of we want to focus on progress, if we are having this discussion via whatever method, and he's willing to acknowledge there's an issue there, all right? It's about, okay, how can we set up a framework that allows us to see we are moving in the right direction? And again, moving, not just, oh, okay, you're emotionally detached, you've been emotionally detached, but now it's all gone. That's a tough sell. It's more like, okay, let's say part of that is you want him to be willing to open up more and be more expressive, right? So one idea could be, like, you know how people have date nights? It could be like the communication hour. And what I mean by the communication hour is like, it could be a set, we pick a day, during this day, we set aside an hour, and during this hour, we talk. We remove the distractions, put away our phones, we sit with each other, and we talk. All right. And this is our chance to ask whatever questions and open up and get more comfortable and practice being, showing up in the way that we need each other to show up to create that positive, loving environment. Okay. I think also in trying to create progress, because again, we don't want to make this all about just, well, you're emotionally unavailable and you need to fix that. It has to be a joint journey in the sense of, I am, as the woman, you have to be open and willing to make any corrections on your end and anything that you can do better. Whatever it is, whether it contributes to the emotional detachment or it has nothing to do with it, however you can show up better for him, you want to make that a part of the journey so he doesn't feel like he's alone in trying to get right, so to speak. And with that, being willing to hold each other accountable in a loving manner. So agreeing that we can sit down. So this is what I call the relationship checkup. Okay. Where again, we designate maybe, and if we're going through a current issue like this, we might want to set it to where once a month we sit down and we kind of review how things have been going. And we discuss things. And we're allowing each other to constructively criticize the other. All right? We're not going to get offended. We're not going to get upset. We're going to listen and say, okay, I hear you. Boom. This is how we're going to make this better. This is how we make that better. And here's the thing. I'm going to be real with y'all. Some of y'all might do these relationship checkups and start to discover more and more, we may not be really best for each other. That's a whole different discussion, whole different issue. But if there is a great potential relationship there, then this will help strengthen that relationship. Okay? And again, it creates a dynamic where we're both striving to be better for each other, and we're doing this together, and that makes it a lot easier for someone who's been kind of emotionally unavailable to now open up and be more receptive to you. All right, so before we continue, I want you to go to my shop, stephanspeakshop.com. Check it out after you finish watching the whole video. This is where you can get tickets to my upcoming events. I am about to be on tour. Books, coaching sessions, programs, you name it, it's all there. Click the link in the description or in the comment section, or again, go to stephanspeakshop.com. All right. So now moving things along, another key to how to deal with an emotionally unavailable man is you need to be gentle and give positive feedback. All right. So here's what I mean. Hopefully, if we've gotten past the first, 4 steps, whatever it was, and he is open to trying to make things better, right? And remember I said to you, you got to focus on progress. Rome was not built in a day. You got to encourage the progress you're seeing, okay? Because here's the mistake a lot of women, people in general, but I'm going to focus on the women for a second, make. And I've seen this happen tons of times in marriages. Let's say married couple comes to me, they're upset. Let's say they both have their beefs with each other. The man feels like, she's not giving him respect and intimacy. The woman feels like he's not helping her with the kids and around the house and doesn't give her enough non-sexual intimacy, right? So the woman, though, has reached a point where she feels like, I've been trying so hard for so long that I'm done being the one that has to keep doing my part. I need to see him do his part for me to feel like, all right, I'm down and out, join him on being better. Okay? She's just fed up. And let's just say the man, because he's like, I don't want to lose my wife. I'm gonna suck it up and I'm gonna deal with this. I'm gonna do my part. So now let's say we're 2 weeks in and he's been trying. But in that woman's mind, it's, how do I know I can trust that this is real change? That you won't switch up on me the minute I start to now accept this new you and believe that things are better now just for you to pull the rug out from under me. Nah, I need to see more. The problem is, in you saying, nah, I need to see more and being skeptical, he feels like ain't nothing working. I'm trying. You would think I've made no efforts to be better. And it can reach a point where he feels like, you know what? F it. I'm done trying. Nothing will make this woman happy. And I'm sure many of you have heard a man say that. Nothing makes her happy. Because he feels like even when he tries, it goes unrecognized. So if we as a couple, right, whether you're dating, married, boyfriend, girlfriend, if you two are doing this thing together and trying to move in a certain direction, and he is attempting to be better, you got to be willing to recognize the effort, because appreciation breeds production. And and I know some of y'all are like, these men are big babies. Why we gotta do all this? Why is he a good enough man to know he should be better in this way, regardless of me patting him on the back? I understand your frustration, but this is human nature. It really isn't just a man thing. All right. If you really flipped it, and if there was a woman who was being told she needed to be better in the relationship, and she's been trying to be better for the next few weeks, month, or whatever, and this man's like, nah, I ain't see enough, she would get frustrated too. And she might be like, I'm tired of this. Just the fact that it just seems like nothing works, so it's not even worth it. What am I even doing here? All right. So we got to recognize the efforts being made, encourage, show appreciation, because that will fuel the individual to keep getting better, keep getting better. And we have to understand, when we're trying to reprogram ourselves into new habits, new mindsets, new approaches, there is that initial period where it takes a while for it to become second nature. So to where you may feel like, well, he should be doing this naturally, he may not be there yet. So in the context of being more emotionally available, if this man has spent the last however long being unavailable and now he's trying to open up, well, it may take him, they say it takes 3 weeks to break a habit, but listen, it might take more than 3 weeks. It might take him a little while for him to really get in the groove and feel like, okay, I'm comfortable in this space now of being more open and less guarded and less detached with my woman. Okay? And we can't get there without encouragement, appreciation, acknowledging the efforts being made. I'm telling you, if you're serious about seeing things move in the right direction, that has to be a part of the formula. All right, so to keep this thing going, another tip on how to deal with an emotionally unavailable man is consider couples counseling. Okay? Now, watching this video and following these steps is kind of like going to counseling, but I do think that one of the mistakes we make when we go to couples counseling or any kind of counseling is what I mentioned earlier, where we're addressing the surface issues and we're not always going deeper. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some coaches and therapists that they know how to push past the surface and navigate into the deeper, because they recognize we can't get true resolution without that, right? But some people, they're just focused on, okay, well, how can we start communicating better? And it's like, okay, well, it may require individually us healing some things, us address some things. So couple counseling is great, but we may also need some individual counseling. All right, so that we both can be more well equipped to work together on this issue and make progress. And to be honest with you, sometimes the individual counseling will be able to solve the issue to where you may not even need the couple counseling, because sometimes the blockage isn't the man or the woman doesn't know what needs to be done. It's they struggle with implementing it because there's something from their past that hasn't been resolved, which continues to get in the way. So again, it's like using the example of if his first relationship, he opened up, she lashed out, he shut down. It's not that he may not understand that you got to be able to communicate in a relationship. It may not be that he doesn't understand you want to feel more loved by him opening up to you. It's just that he has not gotten past his fear of how a woman reacts to when he tries to open up. And if he would fix that, y'all won't need anything else. Like that's now out the way. And now he can now go back to the guy who was willing to open up and be more emotionally invested in all these different things. Okay? So, but still, couples counseling, if you do suggest individual counseling, as I mentioned earlier again, no one likes to feel singled out. So you may feel like, Stephan, I ain't got no issues. The issue is all him. Okay, I understand. But the analogy I like to use is there's been tons of people who would say, I don't need to go to the doctor. I don't need a checkup. I'm fine. I'm healthy. I'm great. And then for whatever reason, they finally go and find out there actually was something wrong. Sometimes you think, oh, you're good, ain't nothing wrong with you emotionally, you ain't got nothing to heal from. But if you would just go get a checkup, an emotional checkup, you may be surprised what comes out. So even if you don't think anything's wrong with you and it's all about him, Still be willing to join him on the journey of saying, hey, let's both try some individual counseling. And then we can also do some sessions together if you want after that. But at least let's try to get to the bottom of the things that we need to release from within us that might be blocking us from coming together in a healthier manner. All right, and now I got one more, but after this I have a bonus that I need you to hear, okay? So another key on how to deal with an emotionally available man is you got to be prepared to walk away. So I know for many of you, that's what you're trying to avoid. And you're hoping that this can be fixed and this can be rectified. But one, you got to recognize that for some of you, this is unfixable. For some of you, you are just dealing with the wrong man. And no matter what you do, you're not going to get the result you're hoping for. Again, that doesn't mean don't try these things, because trying these things will expose or make it much clearer if this is the man for you or not. But you got to understand it may boil down to that. Okay? Now, on the flip side of that, even if this is fixable and this is the man for you, but he is struggling with this issue. If someone feels like no matter what they do, you will not leave them, then you've kind of screwed yourself. In many cases, because you have to understand that at the core of a situation where he's a good guy, right guy, but he's struggling with this, that means 99 times out of 100, he needs to heal from something, if not 100 out of 100. And the journey of healing is difficult. It can be scary for people. It can be hard. So if they don't have to face the fear of potentially losing you, then they'll avoid the fear of having to face their pain and trauma. Okay? But when faced with the reality that if they're not willing to do their part, you are prepared to walk away, now there's a chance, not a guarantee, but a chance that realization, that fear will make them say, okay, I'm afraid to go down this healing journey, but I know if I don't, I lose the woman I love. So let me go do what I got to do. Now, for some people, that may not click until you actually walk away. Unfortunately, because some people just don't want to believe you're going to actually leave them. Okay. And they're just like, and as long as you can sit there and say, well, I'm going to leave you if you don't. In the back of their head, they're just like, nah, she ain't serious. She going to stay. She going to stay. She going to stay. And it's not till you actually, they're like, wait a minute. What happened? And now they're freaked out because they didn't think this was going to actually come to pass. And so it's not that we want to use fear as a tactic. It's not that we want to walk away simply with the intention of lighting a fire under them. No, it's understanding that if things are not progressing the way that they need to progress, if they are not willing to do the work, then you have to be prepared to walk away regardless. But with that walking away, yes, it could lead to them actually finally getting themselves together. And if they are someone that you know deep inside, there's a connection there, something deeper there, and you guys can be together, and after they've fixed what they need to fix, cool, right? Or it may just expose, as I said earlier, it's just not for you, and we move forward. But here's the bonus thing I want to mention that a lot of people don't consider. I'm very passionate about health, and through the years and through all my research, I've just learned more and more how a lot of people's struggles are either due to their unhealthiness, physical unhealthiness, or contributed by their physical unhealthiness. So, for example, some guys may be very detached, very shut down, maybe even very depressed, right? And what they may be struggling with, and I'm not saying there's probably not an emotional component there, but one example is they could be deficient in vitamin D. Low vitamin D leads to higher risk of depression, okay? There could be other nutrients, vitamins, minerals, whatever, that they're lacking that is causing them to have less energy, more fatigued. And let me say this, when you are more run down, fatigued, burnt out, you don't have the energy to be emotionally present, all right? It becomes so much easier to detach and shut down when you just don't have the energy for it anymore. But fixing the underlying health issue may have a very positive impact on issues such as these. Now, again, I'm not saying it's the only piece of the puzzle. I'm just saying it could be a piece to the puzzle. So that's another thing to consider and to take a look at to see if maybe if we make some improvements on that end, we get healthier physically and we may experience a more healthy emotional relationship. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on men who are highly insecure will use these 5 toxic phrases. So you don't really catch it. You don't really understand what's going on. And by the time you do, it's a huge mess. All right? Because again, it can